Management from Strathmore Business School. She's also a YouTuber and a podcaster of the Self-Work podcast with Dr. Vundi. You can make yourself familiar with her work if you have not yet gotten familiar with her before. She creates content around trauma, boosting self-esteem, among other topics. She is a great mental health advocate, which inspires me on a personal level since I'm currently pursuing my diploma in counseling psychology. Also, in a world that is currently embracing mental health awareness, we are pleased and honored to have you here this evening, Dr. Vundi, speaking to us about toxic workplaces and how to navigate them. So let us all be ready to listen and learn and have an interactive session with Dr. Vundi. Welcome. Mr. President.
Asante sana Hortensia. Daktari, over to you. Dr. Caroline.
Hello, Steve.
Hi, Rita.
Hey, apologies for interrupting. I think she should be logging in, so give her probably a few seconds. She'll be in the meeting.
Okay. So thank you, Rita, for that clarification. Ladies and gentlemen, kindly bear with us. I think our guest will be logging in a few. In the meanwhile, allow me to request some of our directors I'm seeing on the call to give a brief background about their dockets to our huge list of guests tuning in tonight. Yes, I'm alerted that she has joined the meeting. Dr. Caroline, if you can hear me, good evening.
Good evening.
How are you, Dr.?
I'm fine, thank you. Sorry for joining a bit late.
No problem, you're just on time.
All right.
Asante, we've just had a very detailed introduction about you and what you do to bring our members abreast to your background. So if you are ready, whenever you are ready, kindly the floor is yours, Daktari.
Thank you so much. I was not there for the introduction, but I will trust that it was honest. I'm trying to also...
Yes, we can repeat. We can repeat the introduction for you to clarify.
It's completely okay. I trust you. So I will just first of all show my face so that we can all see this person who is presenting. This is Dr. Vundi. I am a psychiatrist. I work at Chiromo Hospital Group, but of course right now I'm at my home where I'm giving this presentation. I also do a little bit of advocacy where I talk about mental health and wellness on social media, but we will get into that a little bit later. I'm very honored to speak about mental health and especially about toxic workplaces today. And the way that I hope to have this talk really is to have a bit of a talk where I give some information, and then hopefully at the tail end, we can have a Q&A. So I'll just begin. I would like to share my screen so that I can be able to present. Please, the host, if you can enable me to share my screen, that would be fantastic. There we go. I mean, we'll just start right at the very, very beginning, where I've just given a definition of a toxic workplace. And in as much as I've put it there very easily, as a toxic workplace is defined as a work environment that makes you feel psychologically safe, we all know that it's way more complex than that, right? But of course, we have to start from definitions. And I think the most important take home is that a toxic work environment makes you feel something and not something good. It makes you feel something that's not very good on an emotional level and on a mental level. But if we can break that down a little bit, we can see there that there are a few characteristics that I've tried to identify that show us what a toxic workplace is. And there we have that a toxic workplace is, number one, a culture where there's almost an non-existent sense of teamwork. There's no sense of community, or if it's there, it is eroding. So you're sitting there as an employee and you're feeling like there's no sense of community, there's no sense of teamwork. There's no sense of teamwork, and you can even reflect upon a time where there was teamwork, right? So there is a contrast, a decline of a sense of teamwork. The other thing that I identified is the number of disenchanted employees outnumbers the ones who are engaged. So even if there are a few employees who are engaged, there are very few, but the ones who are complaining, who are saying that the workplace is toxic, are the majority. The other point there that I've put in is worker frustration and conflict is common. And look, it doesn't have to be the extent to which people are physically fighting, you know, or sending nasty emails. Conflict can be very passive aggressive. Conflict can present as people throwing each other under the bus. So we have those kind of frustrations that can present. And the thing is, I know that you're probably listening and wondering, okay, I mean, is the workplace supposed to be a place where we're all just singing and getting along and holding our hands and having a good time? No, so conflict is normal. But here, the thing to take home is that conflict is almost constant. It's like your workplace is a war zone and everybody is fighting everybody. And lastly, the last point that I've put there is that there's almost no effort to improve. There is almost nothing is being done. Have you ever been in a workplace where there are no efforts to improve? We all know the problems. We all are complaining about the same things, but there is nothing being done by anybody at any level. So those are just the 4 points that I would use to define a toxic workplace, but we'll go into it a little bit deeper. Please let me know if you're able to see the slides. Somebody can just let me know if you can see the slides.
Yes, we can, Dr.
Fantastic. So now we move over to the warning signs, because we don't just wake up one day with a toxic workplace. As I mentioned earlier, sometimes you can even reflect to a time when things were good and things started being good. So what are the warning signs? And this one would be a very good part of the presentation for people who are in management, for the executives, for people who are in HR, or even for business owners. How do you know that you're heading towards becoming a toxic workplace? Number one, employees working in silos. I say this very cautiously because there are some organizations which inevitably have to operate in silos. I'm thinking of even places I have worked, like hospitals, whereby doctors kind of tend to be in their own, place, their own silo. Marketing department is doing their own thing, and doctors don't know what the marketing team is doing. And you can't blame them or fault them. It's just the nature of their work. We are all trained to do very different things. But it shouldn't be a situation where people are completely oblivious as to where even the marketing department is, or who should I go to when I need what. Employees should, even if you're working in very different departments, you kind of need to know who to go to when you need something specific. You know, the marketing team does this, or that's the guy you need to talk to when you need this. But if you're so fragmented such that people don't even know who does what, that's very problematic. Because what tends to happen is people develop what we call cliques. Yeah, and it's like you cannot access certain people, and this is part of the toxicity that we talk about. Then the other sign is high turnover. High turnover. And this can be very, very toxic, but I'd like us to also think about it in a very, very different way. There are some organizations whereby a high turnover can point towards toxicity on different levels. For example, if you're replacing your MD every 6 months, it might point towards toxicity on the executive level that maybe might not be felt on the other levels, right? Let's say production and whatnot. So people in production can be having a very good time. They are performing well, they are happy, they're getting along. But then what's happening on an executive level or even board level is extremely toxic. So this point of high turnover brings up another idea that toxicity can be on different levels in the organization, such that one department can be doing very, very well and another one can be extremely, extremely toxic. But all in all, high turnover is a sign of a toxic workplace. The goal for any organization should be to retain your employees, right? Losing one or two is fine, but if you're losing them consistently and at a very short period of time, that's problematic. Moving on, let's talk about feedback. Have you ever worked in an organization where there was no margin for error? It's almost as if people are not allowed to make mistakes. Because I have, and you know, feedback is important, but it shouldn't always be punitive unless it's extremely, extremely gross misconduct. People are human beings. I mean, when you're working with human beings, they are bound to make mistakes. And even as a doctor, I say that very cautiously because, you know, a mistake could mean somebody losing their lives. But just by the fact that it's not machines that, you know, do their job, we always have to leave room for understanding that people can make mistakes. And when you have an environment where people are not allowed to make mistakes, that's where people lie, people cover up because, you know, they don't feel safe enough to open up and say, hey, you know, I did A, B, C, D. Very closely related to that point is reward. A sign of a toxic workplace is if reward is a rumor. Like you literally have to do so much. You have to literally be recognized for grand things, but then, you know, everyday things are not acknowledged, right? And I know you're supposed to do your job, right? So I guess it begs the question, should you be rewarded for doing your job? But, you know, even an acknowledgement that you matter and that you're important is very, very, very important. And it doesn't have to be financial reward, although that's very, very important. But as we came to see during COVID, the organizations that really thrived, even when people were getting pay cuts, were those who were able to make their employees feel like you matter to this organization. Even if you're not getting your annual bonus, your Christmas bonus, you matter. Speaking of rumors, one sign of a toxic workplace is where the rumor mill is the most exciting thing at work. I mean, I think that an organization where people, or a workplace where people just constantly gossip is extremely toxic. I know I said earlier that we are human beings and human beings will always talk, but I mean, if we are constantly gossiping from morning till evening, that's not healthy. That's not a healthy workplace. And the last point there is physical symptoms of work stress. I'll give you an example of a time that something I went through personally during the pandemic. And I remember, of course, the risk was I will get COVID and I will die, and I will give it to my family members and they will die, to put it simply. So I remember always going into work, and immediately, as soon as I set foot in the workplace, I get a tight feeling in my chest. I'm in a state of panic. And the minute my work day is done and I'm heading home, it lets up. So was that a toxic workplace because of that? I don't know. We can discuss, but I do feel like some of the things that were needed to make us feel safe were not being done at the time. Leading us back to the other point at the very beginning when I said there's very minimal effort to improve. So people can know what is toxic in your organization, but there's very little done to improve it. Other physical symptoms of work stress is the rate of people taking sick offs. And I mean, it's a well-known fact that people, the more sick offs that people take could point towards the rate of burnout. And I don't say that we need to now start cracking down on sick offs, absolutely not. When people are sick, they need their sick off. But if you are sitting somewhere where there are people taking sick offs left, right, and center, you need to ask yourself, why? Why is this happening? And is this a toxic work environment that's leading to this? Moving on, deteriorating reputation in the industry. If you're working somewhere where your workplace used to have a particular, to occupy a particular niche, and nowadays all you're known for is bad things, not good things, it's important to take stock of that. It's important to take stock of that. If people are constantly tweeting about your organization and this and that, it's really important to take stock. And this is an important point because sometimes it's not always the employees who point out a toxic workplace. Sometimes it's your customers, and sometimes it's other people in the industry. I'll give you an example of the healthcare space. If you're working somewhere where people are always complaining of the queues, a hospital where people are always complaining of the queues, people are always being misdiagnosed, people don't get better. Step back and ask yourself, is that organization probably a toxic workplace such that maybe the doctors are frustrated, maybe the nurses are frustrated? We are seeing it externally as a long queue or a long waiting time, but perhaps it's reflecting that internally there are some problems going on. The next point is abusive behavior, something that we should not condone at all. And this can be verbal abuse, this can be sexual abuse. And of course, this when it gets to the point of abuse, I mean, this one needs to be heavily frowned upon and legal action taken against. And I just want to say that we should not always wait for the victim of abuse to complain. Sometimes we always know when abuse is happening, or we suspect or we hear it. Let's get into the habit of speaking up for the abuser, or even helping the abuser feel safe enough such that let's get into the place where if the victim speaks up, they know that they have backup. They know that it's safe enough that if I speak, I will have people backing me up. Because if you're silent, and abuse thrives in silence, basically. There's just no other way to put it. You are complicit in the abuse. You are encouraging the abuse to go on. But that's a whole other topic for another day, a topic I'm very passionate about. So maybe you can invite me for another talk and we'll talk about abuse in the workplace or abuse in general. No work-life balance and lack of boundaries kind of go together. If people are texting you at 9 p.m. on a Sunday, I think you kind of need to, you yourself, draw up a boundary, right? And this is something Gen Z are very, very good at. And I think we need to learn from them. They are younger than us, but they're teaching us that let's respect each other's work hours. You know, sometimes it's you who is toxic, who is sending out emails at 11 p.m. and you expect a response by the next day at 7 a.m. How? People have to sleep, people have to spend time with their families. So let's also get into the habit of taking stock and asking ourselves, am I the problem? Am I the one who is lacking boundaries? Lastly, we have no room for growth. If nobody has ever been promoted, everybody just kind of is fired for the next person to come in. You don't see how you're growing in that organization. That's a sign of a toxic workplace. So we'll have a short discussion. I know we're not yet at the Q&A, but let's talk a bit about what I've projected there. Are you qualified to call it a toxic workplace if you are the toxic employee? Because as I said just a few minutes ago, sometimes you are the problem, but then you're telling everybody my boss is toxic. But no, you're the one who constantly goes to work late. You're not meeting your targets. You're the one who is gossiping. Basically, everything that I had put in that other slide, you're complicit in creating this toxic workplace. So are you justified to call it a workplace if you're a toxic employee? Please let me know down below in the chat box, or if you feel like unmuting, you could also do the same. Let me know if you are allowed.
Sorry, Dr.
Yes.
Dr. Sorry to cut you short. Apologies.
Yes. No problem.
Your slide that seems to be stuck. Kindly help us move this. I think we are stuck on slide number 2.
Also, you've not been seeing my slides at all?
We can see the slide, but we are stuck on slide number 2, and I can see you're speaking in reference to slide number 3.
Oh no, I've moved. Oh, sorry for that. I'm trying to see. Let me try and do this.
Okay. Yeah, we are still at the definition part.
Oh no, I'm so sorry. Let me see. Are we together?
Yes, we are. We have moved now to the warning signs of a toxic workplace.
I'm so sorry for that. What I can do, maybe I can share the slides because we are here now.
Yes, it's moving now. It's moving.
It's moving. All right.
Asante. Yes.
No problem.
Asante, and apologies to cut you short.
No. I appreciate that, so that I'm not just thinking we're together and we're not. So we went through this and we already did all this, right? And then we also did that. So now I was here. I had actually reached this slide where I wanted a bit of input from everybody, where I would like to know, do you think that somebody who is toxic themselves, are they qualified or justified to call it a toxic workplace? You can type down in the messages below so that we can see what you think, because personally, I'll tell you what my views are, but I am welcome to hear anybody's contribution. I personally think that somebody who is a toxic employee has very limited room to call the place a toxic workplace. As I said, if you're the one who is coming to work late every single day, you're the one who is perhaps verbally abusive, you don't deliver, you are the gossip queen of the, or king of the office, then it's very unfair for you then to say, my workplace is toxic. So I'm seeing a few comments. Thank you so much. Steve Miner, you're saying, wow, I'm getting several comments. I think toxic employees contribute to making the workplace toxic, so change begins with self. I totally agree with that. Catherine Mwema, you say, most of the time, toxic people don't know that they are toxic. This is very, very true. This is very true, because I believe by the time somebody is saying the workplace is toxic and they themselves are toxic, it means they don't have insight to how they are contributing to this. And I'll touch on this in terms of strategies later. Alan Otieno, you say, yes, the workplace may be a major contributor to the personal toxicity. So that's an interesting spin to it, because Alan, it's basically a question of which came first, the chicken or the egg. So was the workplace toxic first and then it made you toxic, kind of thing? I think that's what you're alluding to. And I would say that that's a possibility, because some people just, your workplace is so toxic, so you decide, you know what, if you can't, fight them, you join them, right? But I am of the opinion that nobody can make you do something. Nobody can make you, I don't like that idea of this place made me this. And I usually encourage you, when you feel like you're in a situation where you start feeling like your workplace is changing you, that's the number one sign that things have to change. Things have to completely change. But we'll talk about this more. Let me read Scholar Mulama's comment. She says, I think some of the toxic people I've met don't even know they're toxic. That is very true. Vanessa, you ask, what is the root cause of this behavior, especially if it was not there initially? I would wager that what Alan Otieno was saying is true, whereby the workplace can be a bit toxic and people start to change and morph and to become like other people so that they can fit into this organization. Begison, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I hope I've not completely murdered your name. You're saying, I was typing on that chicken and egg thing. I also have the same view. Many people seem to have the same view that, which came first. Dr. Beatrice, you say, perhaps it depends on whether we are calling toxicity the diagnosis or the etiology. So which came first? I think both scenarios are true. I think you can have somebody who is very engaged, non-toxic, and then they come into a workplace that's so toxic, the things we were talking about earlier, people gossip, people are extremely, feedback is always negative, there is no reward, there are no boundaries. So this person decides, you know what, even me, I will become very, very toxic. So that can be one scenario. And the other scenario can be true where somebody can be toxic and then they join a toxic organization and they become even more toxic because now they are thriving in their toxicity. But I guess one thing that I would like to make very, very clear is at the end of the day, as an individual, and this is something that I had posted the other day on my Instagram, for me, the number one sign where I know that I need to leave a toxic workplace is if that job begins to change me. So if I get to the point where, and I'd given an example where I recently quit a job because I had become very cold. I was like a machine, at work. I'd get to work in the morning. I leave the person I am at home, the person who is warm and friendly. And when I get to work, I'm just like, hi, my name is Dr. Vundi. What brings you here? Or you have a cold, here is some cough medicine. see you in case you don't get better. And the message I'm putting across to you is, if you are getting to that level and the job is changing who you are, and you almost have to put on a new personality at work, that is not healthy, because one day that will be who you are for real and long term. So that's just something for you guys to think about. Hortensia, you say it could also be subconscious. They join a toxic workplace and end up being toxic, and they aren't aware. I agree about this point completely, where people are not aware. And I'd like to say, let's get into the habit of speaking to our co-workers. Let's get into the habit of speaking to each other, because sometimes we just want to report each other to HR or to the boss, or we want to complain about each other. You want to get home and then you complain to your husband or your wife about all your co-workers, but you're not giving them feedback right there then and there. You're not telling them that, do you feel you could improve in such and such a way? Food for thought. Now let's talk about strategies, because we didn't just also come here to complain about toxic workspaces, and because I'm also seeing that we are running late on time. Let's talk about strategies. And I can see your question, Ian Kisa. Is there an alternative to try and effect change in the workplace other than resorting to leaving? And that's where we are getting into in terms of the presentation right now. So strategies to navigate toxic workplaces, because we can't always leave, as Ian is suggesting. Not everybody has the luxury to just quit their job, right? Or maybe it's your business. You cannot just drop your business because it has become a toxic workplace. So what do you do? So on an organization, I've divided the strategies into two, and please feel free to add, because I'm not all knowing. So the first level is on an organizational level. Rather, this is now where you are either an exec, perhaps you're the entrepreneur, this is your business. So what do you do, right? Or you're in a position of influence, you are, the CEO, and you've noticed that perhaps you've joined an organization and it's very, very toxic. What do you do? The first and most important thing is you can't do it alone. Whoever you are, whether you're the owner, whether you're the HR, you can't do it alone. So you need to identify wellness champions, right? Set up, you just have a look and see who is a person who is passionate about wellness. And you can always tell these people, these are the people who, if there is any kind of wellness talk, they are there setting it up. They talk about these things, identify them, and set up wellness task forces, because trust me, you cannot do it alone. And then with these task forces, now you can sit and try and implement strategies, because as Dr. Vundi, I don't know what is making your workplace toxic. Only you know. So only you, as the wellness champions or people in this wellness task force, can sit and say, this is how we can try and do this and that. Okay. The other thing that I would highly recommend is to organize climate surveys, and I suggest that we preferably outsource these. Let's outsource some of these things, because as most of you are saying, we might not know we are the problem. We don't even know what the problem is. So something that we usually do, even as Chiromo Hospital, is we've worked in situations where we can come and just assess your organization and give direct feedback as to this is what we think is the problem, in a way that's very neutral, because we don't work there. So we have absolutely no problem in saying that the problem is such and such is happening, boundaries are not being respected, blah, blah, blah. So climate surveys are very, very, very important. Climate surveys are important because we can even come and assess the level of burnout in your organization. We can come and assess, perhaps people are burnt out and they don't know, people are depressed, people are anxious. So there are ways, there are standardized tools to actually
Daktari, are you there? I think she might have dropped.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, it's okay, Daktari.
Yes, I'm so sorry. The KPLC decided to do what they do.
They're being.
That
So
makes
my
two of
laptop,
us.
yes, and my laptop is off, but I can just continue with my phone. Seeing literally that was the second last slide. So yes, I'll just pick up from where I left off. I was saying that after climate surveys are done, it's very important to create a work-life balance program or a wellness program for the organization, because after we've done the survey, you cannot just sit there and not give solutions. So it's important to have a collaborative effort between the organization itself and the specialists on creating a program that works. And lastly, we need to have training programs for executives and HR, because I've realized, and I found this out from a survey that I did on my social media, a lot of the toxicity is being propagated by the people at the top, and especially the HR department. So, and I think it's because perhaps they're not well equipped, I don't know, but they need a lot of support to be able to understand how to navigate these situations. So that was on an organizational level, but on an individual level, how do you navigate a toxic job, especially when you can't quit? And I call this the 3 Ps of navigating a toxic job. 3 Ps. P number 1 is perception. P number 2 is prioritize. And P number 3 is plan. And what does this mean? Perception means you need to look at yourself, and this is what we were talking about. What makes this job toxic? Am I the toxic one? How did I get here? Was I toxic before joining this job, or did I join this job and this job makes me toxic? So I always encourage for you to have a clear perception. When you say I'm in a toxic workplace, literally get a notebook and write it down. Who is toxic? Why are they toxic? Am I toxic? So you have to do the first P is really the most crucial part, because it helps you understand, is this something I can fix? Do I need to run away? Because, for example, if you're being abused, especially if you're being sexually abused, you need to actually think about, do I want to take action, or do I want to focus on me and my healing? So the area of perception is very important, and this is where you need to dwell. And I would encourage you navigate this area with a professional, a therapist or a life coach, because sometimes you can't see. Remember, we've said that all through. Sometimes you need an extra set of eyes. Prioritize is the second P. What is my priority? Is it to put food on my table, to pay my rent, or is my peace of mind important? What is my priority? Is it important to take my bosses to court, or is it important for me to just choose peace, move on, try find another job? List down your set of priorities from the most important to the least. And the last P is called plan. Have a plan. Because yes, maybe you can't leave right now, but there are other things you can do. Do you want to try set up a side hustle so that you can have a fallback plan in case this toxic job doesn't work out? Do you want to start doing your master's? Do you want to try and confront these toxic people in your organization? Do you want, have a plan? And that brings me to the end of the presentation. And I would like to just invite questions at this point in time, so that we can figure out, if there is something that we've missed. And I can already see one question in the chat box, so I'll take that as I wait for anybody else. Evelyn Karanja, you asked, is this a sign of toxicity where management prefers to work with certain employees than others? So management picks certain people than others. I would say that I don't know. And this is where the first P is very important, perception. Because this sounds like a very specific question. I'd like to ask you to ask yourself why. Why are they picking this person? Is it nepotism? Is it that this particular person is very, very skilled? I'll give you an example. So in Chiromo, we've identified the people who do certain things. There are people who work very, very well with doing public speaking, for example, myself. There are others who work very, very well in developing programs. So they can sit and develop a very good HR training program. So whenever there's a HR program, I will not be picked. But whenever there's a talk, I will be picked. So is it toxic? Or is it that your organization just chooses people who are, skilled in one department to do that one thing? However, if somebody is being picked because of tribe, somebody is being picked because they are friends with the MD, then of course that is toxic. So remember the first perception, always ask why. Kevin Katalemwa, you're saying you're enjoying the fellowship. I'm so glad about that. Yeah, so I'd like to take another question. And this is the point where I would like to say that for everybody who is here and is in a toxic job, please reach out to a therapist or a life coach. Because it's very, very difficult to navigate some of these situations alone. Right, Samantha Nyawera, I have seen your question. You asked, is it possible to have a situation where toxicity is praised behind the notion of someone being stern, firm, or no nonsense? Absolutely. Absolutely. I think a lot of, there's a toxic demeanor of everybody needs to be a shark, everybody needs to be cutthroat, no nonsense. And I think that can be very, very toxic, although somehow that is what is celebrated, especially in some very high pressure corporate organizations. But please, let's not forget that soft skills are very, very important, not just in your current organization, but in your career. So don't let that no nonsense culture change you, because it only works for that organization. And the day you leave that organization, you will know that soft skills are important. I was watching a video the other day where people were saying that the person who is promoted is the person who knows how to please the boss. I use the word please because another word was used and I don't want to use it here. But if you know how to make your boss feel good, you know very well that will get you farther with your boss and even with your colleagues than this no nonsense cutthroat thing, right? So I would say that if your organization values the no nonsense thing, just take note of that, but don't let it rob you of soft skills. Those are way more important. Nina from Kampala, I see you. Thank you for being with us. And also Belinda from Kampala. I didn't know that I'm speaking to people who are very, very far. Please remember to connect with me. My name is Dr. Vundi on all social media platforms and on YouTube and even on the podcast platforms. Jeff Wamuko, question, how to navigate in a work environment where one gender is favored over the other? Wow, this is tough. This is a tough one. And it's almost similar to the question that was asked earlier about, people being favored when they're stern, they're no nonsense. At the end of the day, you can't change your gender. You can't really change your gender. You can't do anything about that. And what I'm saying is sometimes you can't change the entire organization, but you definitely have something that you can capitalize on. You have something to offer. So yes, you're not the favored gender, but what do you have that you can always invest in? and make sure that there's something that one of my lecturers used to say in undergraduate, and whenever he said it, we would laugh, but now I've come to see the meaning of it. He would say, know what you know and make sure you know it, right? So you can't change your gender, but there is something that you're so good at that people have to come to you for. That's what I'm saying. Hone that skill so well and focus on that. Don't focus on what you can't be and what you can't do, but focus on what you can do. So for me, what I realized is I have a gift in public speaking, and I've honed it so well and I've focused on it such that perhaps I'm not very, very good in A, B, C, D, but this one thing you cannot take away from me. So that's what I would encourage you, Jeff, to do. Focus on what you can do. Mogore Rita, how would you advise setting workplace boundaries in a new workplace, especially when it is posed as the norm in the workplace? There are only three ways to enforce boundaries, whether workplace or an individual level. Number one, communicate your boundary. If you don't communicate your boundary, people won't know that it's your boundary. So communicate it, make it very clear. I don't work on Sundays. And it doesn't have to be rude. It just has to be in response to somebody asking you to work on Sunday. You can say, I will get that to you on Monday when I come to work. You know, so communicate. You can't get over people. People don't want to get to that part of boundaries where they communicate their boundaries, but it's the first and most important step. The second step of communicating, of enforcing boundaries, is implementing them. Meaning, on that Sunday, don't work. So if you get an email, don't respond. If you have work that is undone, don't do it on Sunday. So implement your boundary, because what people do is you have this boundary in your head, but you don't implement it. What are you doing on Sunday? You're working, you're sending emails, you're doing, so then you don't have a boundary in essence, right? So communicate your boundary, implement it, and number three, enforce consequences when your boundaries are crossed. Enforce consequences when your boundaries are crossed. Meaning, if somebody crosses your boundary, follow it up the way you need to follow it up. All right? Let me switch on my video for this because I think it's very important. Follow it up with an email saying that this is now Monday morning. I received your email on Sunday. Sunday is not a work day for me. I will get to it on Monday. So let it be known that somebody crossed your boundary through an email, or even you can walk into the office. Whenever somebody crosses your boundary, you have to make it known that a boundary has been crossed and there is a consequence to that. All right? So communicate the boundary, implement it, and when your boundary is crossed, please feel free to implement consequences of your boundary being crossed. I think the thing that makes people not want to enforce boundaries is fear. So get over your fear, get over it, get over the fear of confrontation, because guess what? Confrontation is not conflict. And confrontation is beautiful. It's important for people to actually get to a common ground. Great, I can see just a few more questions. Wow, okay, they are really coming in. I'll try and take them quickly because we are running out of time. So let's assume that silos can't be broken. How does someone navigate through to survive just enough to see if the workplace will turn around and get through the toxic phase? There is nothing you can do if there are silos. Remember, we said that with toxic workplaces, there are some things you can't change. For example, breaking down the silos. But I would say that on an individual level, see how you can at least be very well informed about each and every silo as an individual. So you don't have to join them. You don't have to be part of the marketing team, but know at least one person in the marketing department. Know what they're doing. Find out what they're doing. Be curious, exercise curiosity. But also in the same way, have your own people who are at least a safe space for you. So identify some people who are a safe space for you. Maureen Washira, you ask, in a situation where the workplace toxicity affects someone's mental and physical health, would you advise them to quit blindly? I would never advise anybody to quit blindly. Please go back to what we said about navigating a toxic job on a personal level. Perception, prioritize, plan. And in the first step of perception, we said perception can mean you coming to see a professional. So come to us. We will help you navigate what is toxic about this job. If you're having physical and mental symptoms, we will diagnose and treat you. We will try and see what can be done. Then prioritize, then plan. Please don't ever quit a job blindly, because I have seen situations where people actually end up in a worse off situation than they were, and you are more frustrated than you were when you were in a toxic workplace, right? So if you're having physical and mental symptoms, that's why we're here. That's why we're having this conversation in the first place, all right? Great, we're having a lot of people from Kampala. This is fantastic. I'm happy to interact with you, and I hope you're learning. Helen Mora, you ask, how do you go about an exit interview where the main reason for leaving was toxicity, but you don't want to burn bridges or badmouth anyone? I think you just have to, I think, Helen, you're asking a question where you want to eat your cake and have it. You just have to make a decision as to what do you want. Do you want to give feedback about the toxicity, or do you want to not burn bridges? It's a very simple thing. But what I've come to realize is that exit interviews have never really changed a toxic workspace. So, you know, if you also just go and say that so-and-so is toxic, it's almost certainly not going to be transformational. The point for you to speak up was when you are actually working there. That's more influential than waiting to say anything at the exit interview. I don't even know if those exit interviews go anywhere, really. So I would encourage, if the workspace is toxic, the best time to speak up is when you're there, not when you're leaving, because your opinion will not be very highly valued, very, very highly valued. So yeah, decide what you want, priorities. Hemi Cornell, you ask, as an employer, is it still toxic if you reward an employee for working after hours or weekend? It really depends, because if you are rewarding the ones working over the weekend and making the ones who are not working over the weekend to feel like they are being punished or they're doing less than, that's problematic. It shouldn't be made to, you know, working over the weekend or after hours is a personal choice. It's not a requirement. So it must never be at the expense of the ones who choose to rest. I hope I'm making it very clear. It must never look like these ones are the good guys and these ones are the bad ones, so you get this gift. So let's be very cautious about that. But there's absolutely nothing wrong with rewarding people for working overtime. Scholar Mulama, you agree. You said that I believe in setting boundaries from day one you start with a company. The problem of conforming fast, then later on trying to set boundaries, it's always viewed as you being rude. I agree. But to add on that, it's still okay to reinvent yourself within an organization. And this fear of being rude, we need to get over it. Anybody who's worked with a Gen Z will tell you that they don't care about being nice. That's not one of their priorities in the workplace. And that's not to say that they are rude, by the way. In fact, I really look up to them. I work with them, and I think they are really changing the game when it comes to the workplace. Let's deconstruct this idea of being a nice person in the workplace. A nice person is a doormat. They never speak up. They are just wanting to be nice to everybody. But guess what? They are betraying themselves. So it's okay, by the way. Let's say you're in the trap where, okay, you never communicated your boundary at the beginning, but now you feel like you want to, but now you're scared of being rude. Get over the fact that, you know, people at your workplace are not your friends and they're not your family. So still communicate your boundary. If somebody thinks you're being rude, really that's just up to them, unless truly you're being rude and more than one person says that you are rude, but you communicating a boundary is not rude. And if you need to, please do it. Please do it, please do it, right? Kevin Kampala, you are requesting that, President, could you share the recording of this meeting if possible? Absolutely, I think you should, and I'll also share my slides. And that is the last question, and I can see we are just 2 minutes after 8 o'clock. I'm very, very respectful of time, my own time as well. So I will just like to cap it at that and say that, you know, it's your own personal responsibility to ensure that, number one, you're not toxic. Number two, to speak up when things are not very toxic. So let's not also be very passive when it comes to toxic workspaces. Let's volunteer to be these wellness ambassadors and join the wellness workforces. Let's be the change that we need, all right? So with that, I'd like to bring my talk to an end. And I'm just so grateful to have had the chance to talk to you. Somebody is saying, Ian, you've communicated your boundary with regards to time. I mean, yeah, I think it starts with little things. Even in your personal life, it's okay to communicate your boundary. So thank you so much, guys. And I hope you'll have me again. So with that, I will just end my video and thank you once more. Asante.
Thank you so much, for that amazing session you led us through around toxic workplaces and how to navigate that. I think I've really learned a lot, and I speak on behalf of the members. We've learned about, guys, can you hear me now? I think my volume is playing issues. Guys, can you hear me? Somebody kindly confirm.
Yes.
We can hear you.
Thank you so much. Asante. Apologies for that hitch. Dr. Caroline, thank you for your presentation this evening. I think my take home is the 3 Ps that you've led us through: perception, prioritize, and planning on how to exit any toxic workplaces. So asante sana for that. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to invite Thairo Ambotu from the club service team to give a vote of thanks to our guest tonight on behalf of all members who are tuned in to this meeting. Thairo, if you can hear me, kindly proceed.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes,
Good
we can
evening.
hear you.
Okay. Now, first of all, I would like to thank Dr. Karen Vundi for her effort in the in today's discussion and making a very excellent presentation. Her ideas on every key point was very well explained, especially on the key areas of the toxic office situations and scenarios that most of the time and we get to experience. Also giving us the main strategies, and especially the 3 Ps, where we are supposed to establish what we really want in the office, get to the office, get your work done, and also don't overdo yourself and don't take everything away so much. Then I would also like to thank our presidents for making this happen. It's a very thought-provoking and very interesting address, and especially in our everyday lives. And also our audience who have actually participated very well. This was very, very good. And I think these are open in many situations whereby a toxic workplace can also bring so many downfalls actually in your life and all that. So I think from these we'll have very key components in considering everything that we do in our everyday life. With this, I'd like to wish everybody a good night, and thank you very much, Doctor.
Thank you so much.
Asante. Asante sana Thairo for that vote of thanks to our guest. I can see other members who are tuning to the club, tuning to the meeting, also expressing their gratitude to you, Daktari, via the chat section. So you can also read through that and see
Asante sana.
the level. Asante, people have appreciated. People have appreciated your talk this evening. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. So feel free to continue typing in your gratitude to Daktari for making time to be with us this evening. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, I do wish to take you through the announcements of the evening. We do have 4 announcements from the Rotaract Club of Nairobi Central. Allow me to try and project. Let's see whether we can get it done. Ladies and gentlemen, kindly confirm you're seeing this.
Yes.
Asante, we do have 4 announcements. The first announcement is that the Club Service Committee will be hosting a joint meeting with the fundraising and the professional and leadership development committees on the 7th of September 2022. So this is an invite to all of you to attend that joint meeting between the 3 dockets. We also, the second announcement tonight is that the finance director wishes to remind you, this goes specifically to the members of the club, to keep on sending their membership dues even as we continue to usher in the month of September, and the channel to send in the membership dues for all members of all inducted members of the Rotaract Club of Nairobi Central. They are shown through the Absa Bank. We do have the pay bill number and the account number, and also members, these details are also available on your personal email. So kindly be on the lookout for that. And also once you've sent your payment, your membership payment, please do notify the finance team for recording purposes. The last announcement this evening is that the Professional and Leadership Development Committee invites all of you to a mentorship cocktail on Saturday, the 10th of September. This should be this Saturday from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. at Cool Breeze Gardens in Muthaiga. The charges are 600 shillings payable to a secretariat line. This is 0716 314659. Once again, 0716 314659. All members, alumni, and guests are welcome for the mentorship cocktail. And for inquiries on this event, please do not hesitate to reach out to Makena Mwaneki, our mentorship director, and her number is 0720 207 569, or Nicholas Mutaiti, our professional leadership and development committee director, and his number is 0712 111 And perhaps I could speak briefly about the mentorship cocktail. This is an event, it's a rare occasion for all our members, our guests, and our alumni to engage with Rotarians from our Mother Club, the Rotary Club of Nairobi. We have a huge delegation that will be attending this mentorship cocktail this Saturday. So it's an afternoon for you to engage with Rotarians and understand more and much deeply about Rotary and Rotaract. So this is an invite to all our members and also alumni and our guests. Feel free to attend this meeting, this cocktail, this Saturday for that. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to invite you to a short session of Happy Dollars. I think it's been a very chilly evening and a very cold evening and a very rainy evening. We've seen at some point KPLC wamejaribu kuanua stima yao but all in all, we've had an engaging evening. So I wish to invite you to express your happy dollars. Happy dollars, you can share them to our secretariat line 0716 314-659-0716. 314-659. All happy dollars are geared towards our signature project, the Adopt a Village project that is coming up. So ladies and gentlemen, I invite you to share your happy dollars. Of course, I know we are so excited about an engaging and an interactive session. So feel free. Who's happy? Aya, hamjafurahia?
Hello, Steve, President Steve. I have one
Yes,
happy dollar
Bonasuka.
to Dr. Vundi. That was an insightful session. We look forward to having her visit the club again, and also for us to learn more from the social media channels that she shares information with regards to mental health. Thank you.
Thank you, Super. I do have two happy dollars. $1 goes to the club service committee for organizing this very insightful session, and another $1 goes to Dr. Vundi for making time through her busy schedule to come and share with us and enlighten us more about toxic workplaces and how we can navigate that. So asante sana daktari for making time. And as Super has alluded to, we look forward to invite you in future for such another session. I've also seen Koki Makewa raise her hand. Koki? Koki? Okay. Perhaps as we wait for... Yes, Koki, kindly go ahead.
I have two happy dollars. One for our guest speaker, that was very informative, and the other one goes to our guests, especially the guests from Uganda. And I'm so happy to see all of you here. Tuendelee hivyo hivyo. Asante.
Asante sana Koki for that. I've seen on the chat section, I can see our club service director, Rita Mugure, giving two happy dollars, one for Dr. Vundi for gracing our invitation. That is the invitation of the club service docket on behalf of the Rotaract Club of Nairobi Central. And also seen the second happy dollar goes to club service guests. This is Hortensia and Thairo Wambutu for representing us throughout this meeting. Hortensia is the one who led us through the bio and introduced our guest tonight to us. And Thairo amemalizia with a powerful vote of thanks. So thank you so much, our club service team. Thank you so much, Hortensia and Thairo, for taking up those two roles. I'm seeing a happy dollar from Scholar Mulama, who says a happy dollar to all of us for being here. Asante sana. Two happy dollars from Paul Mwangi, our fundraising director, from him to everybody for tuning into our club. I'm seeing two happy dollars from Jason. I do believe this is Jason, our assistant club community service director. This, he says, two happy dollars, one for Dr. Vundi for such a great talk, and another for the team from Kampala. Awesome. We've had a huge delegation tuning in all the way from Kampala, and karibuni sana. I need to Google how to say karibuni sana in your language. Asante sana. And for that, Jason, I'm seeing a happy dollar from Rose Saitoti from the IAS docket to the members who joined in from Kampala. So awesome. Thank you so much, Rose, for that. I've seen our past president, Samantha Nyawera, unmute. Past president, do you have something to share? Past President Samantha, salimia watu angalau. Okay. Meanwhile, as she comes on board, anyone else who has a happy dollar? I can see a happy dollar from our PR director, Jeff Wamogo, who says, 2 happy dollars, one for Dr. Vundi's insight and another for the club service team. Asante sana. Ladies and gentlemen, kindly keep your happy dollars coming in so that we can see this. So the happy dollar number once again is 0716. I will be sharing this on the chat section. It goes to our secretariat's line, and all proceeds for this go to towards our signature project. So the name on the happy dollar is Alice Mary Kimani. So feel free to share your happy dollars on that. Is there anybody who is sad this evening? Perhaps mtu ambaye amenyeshewa. You can also be sad with a dollar. Anyone? Asante. Seems no one is sad tonight. I can see Rita Mumo, a member of the club, saying a happy dollar for an awesome meeting. Asante sana, Rita, for that. Long time. Asante sana. So, ladies and gentlemen, at this point, I wish yes, I'm seeing before we conclude, happy dollar from this is Perpetual Mature, Madam TRF, the lady in charge of the Rotary Foundation bracket in our club. She says, I'm happy for the high turnout this evening. Looking forward to the mentorship cocktail on Saturday. Asante sana, Perpetual. We also look forward to engage further with you on Saturday. So is there anyone who I'm leaving behind? Anyone else who is happy, sad? Nani amenyeshewa? Nani hana stima? Okay, no problem. Do we have any club that has a message, an announcement, any visiting club that has an announcement? I invite you to make your announcement. Amatu, you just say hi to the members here. Kaki doll, I can see. A happy dollar to the presidency. Asante sana. Anyone who we are leaving behind? Okay. Do we have any visiting Rotary or Rotaract club that has an announcement? Okay, thank you. Asante. So at this point, at exactly 20 minutes past 8 p.m., ladies and gentlemen, I wish to bring this meeting to a close. And yes, we will have the recordings, both the video recording and also the PowerPoint recording from our guest speaker shared with you via email and also on our YouTube channel. So kindly be on the lookout for that. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, I do wish to propose a toast in recognition of the following clubs. So if you have a charged glass wherever you are, I encourage you to lift it up. If not, please, I invite you to put your right hand across your chest in recognition to the following clubs. And before I mention the clubs which have attended this meeting tonight, allow me to give you a breakdown of their attendance. This meeting has recorded a total attendance of 79 members. Amazing, awesome. 79 people are in attendance to this meeting. Of the 79, we had 54 who registered through the attendance form that was shared by our secretariat team. So asanteni so much for that. We do have 31 Rotaractors who had attended this meeting. We also had 20 guests. That's amazing. 20 guests also made time to tune in to our meeting this evening. We do have 2 alumni who are also on the call. And lastly, we have 1 Rotarian who made time to attend our meeting tonight. So this brings the total number of 79. Asanteni sana, ladies and gentlemen. I wish at this point, I do wish to propose a toast to the following Rotary clubs. I wish to propose a toast to the Rotary Club of Nairobi, the Rotaract clubs of Athi River, the Rotaract Club of African Nazarene, the Rotaract Club of Kampala South, the Rotaract Club of Young Professionals, the Rotaract Club of Kikuyu, and the Great Rotaract Club of Nairobi Central. I give you Rotary and the Rotaract the world over.
To Rotary and Rotaract the world over.
The world over.
Asanteni sana. This meeting stands adjourned at 22 minutes past the hour. Thank you so much for attending our meeting tonight. Good night and God bless, and see you all on Saturday during the mentorship cocktail. Yes, you can now unmute and say hi to your people. Jason,